I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. This time it's a Patreon review for Stewie Bro, and it is for The Assignment from 1997. Now, it's directed by Christian Duguay. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. He's made a couple films I enjoy. Scanners 2. I really like Streamers, which that's another request coming sometime this month. Not every film he's made has been great, but I've enjoyed quite a bit of his stuff, and I kind of want to see what he's done filmography-wise. But what the movie's about, it's about Aidan Quinn, who I remember as the bad guy in the Richard Dreyfuss, Emilio Estevez film Stakeout, which, by the way, that film deserves a Blu-ray. Stat. But he was the bad guy in that. He's been in other stuff too. And he plays two roles. He plays this terrorist named Carlos the Jackal. And Christian Duguay at times has an interesting, I want to say, I don't know, visuals. Well, and I guess that's a decent way of putting it. I knew it was a film I was missing. Yeah, he did Live Wire. I reviewed that with Pierce Brosnan. Very underrated film, Live Wire. To me, that's a gem. I love Live Wire. It's Pierce Brosnan film before he did GoldenEye. Live Wire's underrated. He also did Scanners 3, which I remember, Then Streamers, The Assignment, this was pretty decent. The Art to War, I forgot he did that Wesley Snipes film. Oh, he did Extreme Ops, which I know my friend Mike OCP was a big fan of that movie, with his big epic rant on it. I barely remember Extreme Ops, to be honest. I remember being like very forgettable, but yeah, The Art to War Wesley Snipes was okay. Streamers, I'd probably say that's his best one, that and Live Wire. And then I don't mind Scanners 2. Scanners 3, yeah. This one, I did fairly decent. But like I was saying with the plot, Aidan Quinn plays Carlos the Jackal. And it's a really interesting way of beginning the film because he throws a grenade. But it's interesting because the camera stays on the grenade. And we follow the grenade as it goes into this cafe. And it stays on the grenade as it explodes, and we kind of see from the inside the detonation of this grenade as it blows up this cafe and kills people. Because Carlos the Jackal, like I said, is a terrorist. But I thought, okay, that's not a normal thing in a good way to showcase. It's not inside the grenade, but like right by the grenade, the camera is, and then drops, and then it was a very visually interesting way of doing that. And a couple times there's some decent visual moments that the director brings out of this story. Donald Sutherland is also in this film as a CIA officer. He witnessed that, and now he's very gung-ho to try to get this terrorist. And years later, he finds out that there's another guy that looks almost exactly like the terrorist, also played by Aidan Quinn, who is part of the Navy. He's a naval officer. And so he's trying to convince Aidan Quinn to do this. He's like, no, I'm not doing this. I want to be with my family and my kids. You get someone else. And then Donald Sutherland pretty much forces him, calling his superiors, to help him get this terrorist. And then Ben Kingsley, he's in the film, who him and Aidan Quinn had a bit of a bad first impression years before. And so they're kind of iffy on working with each other. And then the three of them, Ben Kingsley and Donald Sutherland, are teaching Aidan Quinn how to be Carlos. Now, before I go on, I gotta say, there's tiny bits of action in this, but I would not categorize this film as an action movie. I would categorize it more as a drama where you showcase a man who is being trained to be undercover and how being undercover affects him mentally, changes him mentally. Almost to a point, it's like a psychological drama in a weird way. Again, there's little bits of action, but if you go into this expecting Leon the Professional or like some other action film, I think you may be disappointed. There are bits and pieces, but again, I would categorize this more as a, like I said, little bit of psychological drama with tiny specks of action. But it did draw me in the story, because I thought Aidan Quinn did a fairly good performance, as did Donald Sutherland and Ben Kingsley. Some of the lines surprised me, like Donald Sutherland mentioning Star Wars when he's talking to Aidan Quinn. Remember what Darth Vader said to Luke? Come over to the dark side when you come over to my side. I just didn't expect referencing Darth and Luke Skywalker in a fucking movie like this, but that was kind of fun. The training I thought was interesting because, granted, a lot of it he doesn't really get to utilize too much. Like, there's not really a lot of instances, which I guess that's one drawback I have with it. He's trained a lot of this stuff about how to memorize things, but really that a lot of this training doesn't really come into play in the movie with how it works out. Like, they make him eat this porridge, and he's like, I'm tired of eating this shit. Why do I have to eat it? Exactly, you're acting like a spoiled brat, just like Carlos does. And he had to eat that all the time as a kid. You don't hate it just like he does. And they even bring a girl in to teach him how to have sex like Carlos does. That does come into play. That's really the only thing that come into play. They could have just saved a lot of time for this guy. Not worry about memorizing how many dishes are here, how many stuff is here. All they had to do was, hey, teach him how to have sex like Carlos. Because that's really all that gets employed. And that's like my one problem with it is, what was the point of all this other training? That's why I didn't mind it as a drama to showcase the effects of training someone to be undercover for precautions. It may not come into effect. You may not have to do this and implement it, but just in case, you gotta do this and this and this, and how that affects Aidan Quinn's character. That part of the story I was interested in. So I guess, I mean, that's the truthful fact, is that you may be trained in it. That doesn't mean that's going to happen in real life. That doesn't mean that's what's going to happen on the mission. You're doing it just to be sure, just as a precaution. But again, most of the stuff he's training never comes into play. Because, spoiler alert, starting out spoilers, and I do recommend the film because I do think Aidan Quinn did a good job. I think, again, there's some nice visual touches with the director. Sutherland and Ben Kingsley are good as well. It does a nice job of showcasing Aidan Quinn's struggle being undercover and how he wants to go home, and he's been affected mentally by being undercover as this guy, but he doesn't want to bring that home to his wife and kids. I thought that was the best part of the movie. But again, spoilers, what happens after the training is, goes with this girl, his training in fucking comes into play and succeeded, but then finds out that girl's French intelligence, and so the French intelligence think he is Carlos, so he has to escape, and then he has to save his own ass, so he ends up killing some of them. And I do like Aidan Quinn being horrified. I killed 4 men. Maybe I don't like killing our fucking allies. So I like that Aidan Quinn acknowledges this bullshit. I quit. This bullshit. I didn't want to do that. I hate having to do that. I want to go home. I like that the script at least brings that to attention. Because granted, there are movies that ignore that. The Predator 2018. Remember that piece of shit? Where the little kid had a fucking predator mask and oops, it accidentally murdered this guy. 20 minutes later, I'm having a fun bit with my dad going, Dad, don't kill people. Kid, you just murdered someone. Accidentally. Yeah, you still did. You had no fucking emotion. Macaulay Culkin and The Good Son have more emotion to killing someone than you fucking did. Little fucking psychopath. Anyway, see, they didn't acknowledge it. Fuck it. But this movie at least acknowledges stuff like that. And I appreciate that. At one point, there's this assassin that's thinks he's Carlos to talk with him, but doesn't know the password or whatever. So he knows he's a fake, takes him into the bathroom. Ben Kingsley saves him. Spoilers. But dies trying to save Aidan Quinn. And then he goes home. So that's when like a lot of his training was pointless. Really? But that's what I mean. I don't look at this as a Mission Impossible action film. To me, this is more of a drama of a guy who's the training in this assignment to prepare this, how it affects a guy emotionally, how he starts fucking his wife like he was trained to, and he has to reboot his mind, so to speak, and then not doing that. How he almost beats the fuck out of this little league guy who's an asshole, this little league parent, because he's going to see his kid's game, and this guy's like beating up his kid, and Aidan Quinn ain't having that, and beats the fuck out of the guy. And I'm like, the guy deserved it. But of course, other people like his wife are a bit perturbed that Aidan Quinn would go off like that. I'm like, again, the motherfucker deserved it. He was beating the shit out of his kid, but whatever. It's more about the psychology of going under, not the result, the action. I don't know Christian Duguay. I don't know him personally. I've never met the guy. I've never talked to the guy. But I would guess that was his intention. It was to showcase the psychology of a guy who goes undercover this deep and then trying to take that off. Because again, it's not about the action. Again, a lot of this, they do go back. Him and Sutherland go back. Pretty much, Aidan Quinn meets someone and goes on a motorcycle showing his face, and then people think that's Carlos, and then Carlos like, what the fuck? That's not me. Like the KGB think it's Carlos, and they think Carlos is going to the CIA and that he's turning, so the KGB tried to kill Carlos. Even the ending, again, if you go into it as an action film, you'll be disappointed. Because the two Aidan Quinns fight in the water, Sutherland shoots, he shoots the wrong one, saves him, the actual Carlos gets away, but then the terrorist is caught via text. And even I I liked this film on the psychological level. Even I'm going, what the fuck? Really? Okay, the good Aidan Quinn is fine. They faked him and his family's death so that they're living high on the hog in a nice place now. And then you showcase his text. Oh yeah, well Carlos, because the KGB and people thought he had turned, no one wanted to give him safety, and then eventually he was caught. Why don't we see this? Why don't we see this? That would be nice to see. That would be nice to view. Hell, that would have been better than just the two Aidan Quinns fighting in the fucking water for a couple minutes. It's like your finale is via text. That's like, okay, I'm watching Aliens. I picked that as one of my favorite films. And then when it got to Ripley fighting the Queen, I just texted you that ending. You don't get to see it. You just see the doors open, Ripley, and then text goes up. She found Newt, and then there's an alien queen, and then blah, blah, blah. You'd be like, what the fuck? It's arty, but bullshit. So the ending is a letdown. I don't think they need to go that route. I don't know why it got so darker now. Let me turn up the brightness a little bit. Oh, so, no, other way. Thank you. So I don't look like a raccoon. There we go. But anyway, yeah, I do have issues with it. The ending's a bit let down. I would have liked more action, more of the training paying off. Like his whole having to memorize stuff, that really never came into play. Other than maybe when he's talking to the French, the woman when he's talking to the French lady after sex, and he notices the cigarette. And it's a different cigarette. So okay, maybe that part. In the shooting, you know, some of it mattered. But the extent that it went on, the payoff wasn't as, I guess, fulfilling compared to all the preparation for it. But yeah, if you go into it as an action film, you don't be disappointed. But for the performances, some of the artistic direction, there's certain moments where Aidan Quinn, he's been given some drug as part of the training, and he's going past these jail cells. He keeps seeing versions of himself, like talking to him. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Overall, I thought it worked on that level. I would rather go to Livewire and Scanners 2 and Streamers for the director's filmography, but this is still not a bad film. This is not a bad movie. It was an interesting film to watch. I got pulled into the story to see what would happen next, and I thought Aidan Quinn, Sutherland, and Ben Kingsley did a good job. So overall, I did like it. So thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.